Hi guys, welcome to Board. I'm Saurav, your science faculty, and welcoming everyone in Board. And in this video, we are going to discuss very important chapter of science, that is the metals and non-metals and their physical and chemical properties. Basically, we will discuss about their physical properties and their chemical properties. Clear? So this chapter is very important. So do focus and take your pen and paper and do make your notes also, so that you can revise these notes in the time of your examination. Okay, so let's start our class and please enjoy the class. So metals and non-metals, physical and chemical properties, this is our today's topic. And first we will talk about metal and non-metal, then we will discuss their physical and chemical properties. Okay, so what is the basic definition of metal? That metals are good conductor of heat and electricity and malleable and ductile. Clear? Very important. Metals are good conductor of heat and electricity, and non-metals are the poor conductor of heat and electricity, and they are not malleable and non-ductile and non-lustrous material. Clear? So this is the very basic, very ground level definition of metals and non-metals. Now here are some physical properties of metals are already given, which are very important. And apart from that, we will discuss some another physical properties also in our upcoming part of the video. But here you can see that gold and silver are most malleable and ductile material. Malleable means you can beat any metal and you can change that metal into sheets. That is the property of malleability. And what is the property of ductility or ductile metal? That you can transform or you can change that metal into wires. Clear? That is the property of ductility. Similarly, silver is the best conductor of the heat, followed by copper. Okay, so very important. Third point is very important. Silver is the best conductor of heat, followed by copper. So why we don't use a silver wire? Because silver is so much costly in comparison to copper. Okay, that's why we use copper wire, because copper is also very nice conductor. Okay, in the second place copper is there in terms of conductivity, but silver is far more expensive than copper. That's why we don't use silver, we prefer copper. Clear? And aluminium and copper are good conductors of heat. That's why cooking utensils are made of them. Okay, aluminium and copper, cooking utensils. Okay, basically base of that cooking utensils, we make that base by using aluminium and copper metal, so that you can cook your food easily, because they are very good conductors of heat. Sodium and potassium are so soft that they can be easily cut by a knife. Okay, so this is very important, sodium and potassium. Now non-metals, obviously non-metals are the poor conductors of heat and electricity, or they can be solid, like diamond. Diamond is a non-metal and it is a solid substance. Liquid, like bromine water. Bromine is the only liquid non-metal. Very important. Bromine is the only liquid non-metal. And in the form of gas also. In the form of gas also, they are non-metals, like fluorine gas or chlorine gas. Okay, these are non-metals. Now, they are soft and non-lustrous means not shining. Brittle means you can change them into crystals. Non-sonorous and poor conductor of heat and electricity. Example: carbon, hydrogen, helium, neon, and krypton. Clear? These are the noble gases. Okay, so these are non-metals. Okay, and they don't possess any of the properties of metals. Okay, non-metals don't possess any of the properties of the metals. Clear? Now we will talk about specifically their physical properties and their chemical properties of metals and non-metals. Clear? Now, so physical properties of metals. Physical properties of metals. So metals in their pure state having a shining surface means they shine. Means metals shines. Clear? And this property is known as metallic luster. This property is known as metallic luster of the metal. Similarly, you will find that some metals can be beaten into sheets, and this property is known as malleability. Similarly, you can change some metals into wires, and that property is called as ductility. And very important, that gold is the most ductile metal, as well as gold is the most malleable metal. Gold is also most malleable metal. Okay, malleable metal. And if you are not getting gold in the option, then silver will be the second one. Okay, so silver is also the right answer, but if gold is not there in the option. Clear? So gold is the most ductile metal. you will be surprised to know that a wire of about 2 kilometer length can be drawn from 1 gram of gold. Please think about that how much less quantity this is, 1 gram of gold, and from this 1 gram of gold you can draw away, you can basically uh, change that 1 gram of gold into a 2 kilometer length of wire of gold. Okay, a thin wire. See the property of ductility that gold possesses basically. Okay, so gold is the most ductile material. The best conductors of heat are silver and copper. The best conductor of heat are silver and copper. Lead and mercury are comparatively poor conductor of heat. It is because of their malleability and ductility that metals can give different shapes according to our needs. Very basic point. Obviously, if metals are malleable and ductile, so we can use them in our different substances. Okay, we can make various machinery items from them. Okay, because their malleability and ductility property. Clear? And the last but not least, this point is very very important, that gallium and cesium have very low melting point. Very important, gallium and cesium, both metal have very low melting points. These two metals will melt if you keep them on your palm. Okay, these two metals will melt if you keep them on your palm. Clear? Gallium and cesium, very very important. Clear? And now we will discuss about non-metals physical properties. And basically we will not discuss so many physical properties of non-metals. Basically we are going to compare their physical properties in comparison to what, in comparison to the properties of metals, and further we will discuss about their chemical properties. Some of the examples of non-metals are carbon, sulfur, iodine, oxygen and hydrogen. Clear? Carbon, sulfur, iodine, oxygen and hydrogen, etc. And the non-metals are either solid or gases except bromine, which is a liquid. Based on their physical properties only, you can't decide whether is metal or non-metal. That's why basically only from the physical property basically you can't decide that this substance is metal or this substance is non-metal. Okay, that is not sufficient, because some non-metals also say shows the similar property or a similar physical property to that of metal. Okay, but so that's why in further from physical property basically you need to compare metal and non-metals from chemical properties also, and that condition only you can decide that particularly this substance is a metal and this substance is a non-metal from their chemical properties. That is very very important. Clear? So based on their physical properties only you can't decide whether is metal or non-metal. See these exceptions. Okay, see these exceptions basically, that's why you can't decide. Iodine is a non-metal but it is lustrous. Okay, see, in metal what I had said just now, that lustrous means shiny property, shining. Okay, there will be shining in the metal, but in non-metals lustrous property is not there. But iodine is non-metal but it is lustrous. Okay, so you can't decide that now you can't decide just by physical properties that iodine is metal or non-metal. Carbon is a non-metal that can exist in different forms. Yeah, carbon is a non-metal. Each form called as allotropes. Okay, each form of the carbon is known as allotropes of the carbon. Diamond is an allotrope of carbon, and diamond is the hardest natural substance on our earth. Okay, diamond is the hardest natural substance known and has a very high melting and boiling point. See, metals have also very high melting and boiling point. Similarly, the diamond, which is a non-metal, and it is the hardest natural substance, so it is a solid also, as well as it has very high melting point, as well as it has very high boiling point. Similarly, now graphite is also the allotrope of carbon. Okay, graphite hexagonal packing is there in graphite. Graphite is like this. Okay, there is a hexagonal packing present in the graphite, and graphite is always comes in the form of sheet. Okay, like a hexagonal packing is there, and graphite is like this. Okay, they occur in sheet form. Okay, so graphite, another allotrope of carbon, is a conductor of electricity, so this is also exception, graphite. Now what we said about non-metals, that non-metals are the poor conductor of heat and electricity. But graphite, which is made up of carbon is a non-metal, but graphite, which is an allotrope of carbon, okay, is a conductor of electricity. So this is also exception. So again, this statement is true that you can't decide just from the physical property that whether substance is a metal or non-metal. Understood? Now, alkali metals like lithium, sodium, and potassium. Okay, alkali metals and alkaline earth metals. These are the two S group series of periodic table. So lithium, sodium, and potassium, these are alkali metals, are so soft that they can be cut with a knife. They have low densities and low melting point. They have low densities. Now, again, this is contradiction to the definition of metals. Metals have high density, and metals have high melting point. Okay, and metals are hard. But alkali metals like lithium, sodium, and potassium, they are exception. They are so soft. You can cut them with a knife. Okay, and they have low density and low melting point. And one more important information, gallium and cesium are metals and they have very low melting point. Even these metals melt if you keep them on your palm also. Okay, so that is also an exception. Clear? So these are the physical properties of metals and non-metals, and so you can't decide whether it's metal or non-metal just by just by comparing their physical properties. So further, what we are going to do, we will discuss about the chemical properties of metal. And let's see what is chemical properties of metal. So now, what happens when metal are burnt in air or you heat the metal in the presence of oxygen? What happens when metals are burnt in air or you provide the heat to the metals in the presence of oxygen? In the presence of clear. Now, almost all metals combine with oxygen to form metal oxide. Clear? This is very important. Means like metal plus oxygen. Obviously, if you are providing heat in the presence of oxygen, okay, heat, what you will get metal oxide. You will get metal oxides. Clear? So this is very, very important. Almost all metals combine with oxygen to form what? To form metal oxide. For example, when copper is heated in air, okay, two atoms of copper when heated in the presence of air, it combines with oxygen to form copper oxide. ठीक है, two molecules of copper oxide, two molecules of what? Copper oxide you will get. Similarly, aluminium forms aluminium oxide. Now four atoms of aluminium, when you combine with oxygen, when it will combine with oxygen and you are heating that metal in the presence of oxygen, you will get aluminium oxide, Al2O3, two molecules of Al2O3. Why 4, why 3, why 2 is there? Basically, this is nothing but just a balancing. Okay, LHS, the mass of the LHS should be equal to the mass of the RHS, or the number of atoms which are present in the left hand side should be equal to the number of atoms present in the right hand side. That's why these 2, 3, and 4 are present here. Okay, this is known as balancing of the chemical equation. This is known as balancing of the chemical equation. Clear? Very, very important. Balancing of chemical equation. Clear? Similarly, here 2 copper. Here you can see 2 Cu is there. O2 is there. There are 2 oxygen. There is also 2 oxygen is there. Okay. So this is also a balanced chemical equation. This is also a balanced chemical equation. Got it? Awesome. Next. Now, some metal oxides such as aluminium oxide like Al2O3, you have just seen like Al2O3 aluminium oxide, zinc oxide ZNO, shows both acidic as well as basic behavior. See, these chemical properties are very, very important. Okay, focus here. Some metal oxides such as aluminium oxide and zinc oxide shows both acidic as well as basic behavior. Okay, such metal oxide which reacts with both acids as well as base to produce salt and water are known as amphoteric oxide. Very, very important definition. Very, very important definition. What are amphoteric oxides? What are amphoteric oxides? Such metal oxides which react with both acids as well as bases to produce salt and water. Okay, so this is amphoteric nature of the metal oxide. Like examples are, there are only few metal oxides are there which are amphoteric like Al2O3, zinc oxide, very, very important. Here you can see that Al2O3 plus 6 of hydrochloric acid. Hydrochloric acid is what? This is acid, and this is what? Metal oxide. Now Al2O3 plus 6 of HCl, what you will get? Aluminium chloride, that is salt. 2 molecules of aluminium chloride you will get, plus what you will get, water you will get. Similarly, when you treat aluminium oxide, that metal oxide, with base NaOH, strongest base sodium hydroxide, what you will get, 2 molecules of NaAlO2, that is sodium aluminate, which is a salt, sodium aluminate and water. Okay, so here you can see metal oxide, aluminium oxide and zinc oxide, they can react with both acid as well as base, and they will form salt and water. That's why they are called as amphoteric oxides. That's why they are called as amphoteric oxides. Now, most metal oxides are insoluble in water. Most metal oxides are insoluble in water, but some of these dissolve in water to form alkalis. To form alkalis means base. To form alkalis means base. Sodium oxide and potassium oxide dissolve in water to produce alkali. Alkali means they will form either sodium hydroxide or potassium hydroxide bases. These are alkalis. Clear? Here you can see sodium oxide and potassium oxide. These are what? These are metal oxide. Metal oxide because sodium and potassium are metals. Sodium and potassium are metals, and oxygen is there. So when you heat sodium and potassium in the presence of, in the presence of in the presence of what, in the presence of oxygen, what you will get, you will get what, you will get sodium oxide. And when you dissolve this sodium oxide in water, when you dissolve this sodium oxide in water, you will get what, you will get sodium hydroxide base. Clear? And similarly, when you dissolve K2O, potassium oxide, in water, solid form of potassium oxide in the liquid form of water, you will get aqueous solution of potassium hydroxide base. You will get aqueous solution of potassium hydroxide base, and these are strong base. These are strong base. Clear? Very nice. Next, what happens when metal reacts with water? Okay, this point. What happens when metal react with water? Now we have just seen that what happened when metal are burnt in air, and what happened when metal oxides reacts with acid, base and water. Okay, now we will discuss metal reacts with water. And so see here, metal reacts with water and produce metal oxide and hydrogen gas. Metal oxides that are soluble in water dissolve into it further to form metal hydroxide, but all metals do not react with water. Very very important. Okay, there are so many metals which are very reactive towards water. Okay, when you dissolve that metal or when you react that metal with water, basically metal reacts with water, and what it will produce, it will produce metal oxide plus hydrogen gas. Metal oxide plus it will produce hydrogen gas. But if that metal oxides which you are getting, if that metal oxide is also soluble in water, in that condition it will transform further into what, metal hydroxide. See, metal plus water, it will form metal oxide plus hydrogen. Now let's say this metal oxide is also soluble in water, is also soluble in water. So what will happen, metal oxide, again it will react with water and you will get metal hydroxide. Again that metal oxide, it will react with water and you will get metal hydroxide. Clear? Now calcium and magnesium, calcium and magnesium starts floating because the bubbles of hydrogen gas formed stick to the surface of the metal. Now like calcium is the metal or magnesium is the metal, when you are reacting these metals with water, what you will get, you will get calcium oxide or magnesium oxide. Okay, but these basically calcium and magnesium, it will start floating uh, on the surface of the water because of these hydrogen gas, these hydrogen gas bubbles, these hydrogen gas bubbles, actually these bubbles will get stick on the surface of these metal oxides or metals. Okay, and that's why the metal floats on the surface of the aqueous solution. Clear? Similarly, metals such as lead, copper, CuPb, I'm just writing the symbol also, silver and gold, clear, do not react with water at all. Very very important, very very important line, one of the most important line in this slide. Metals such as lead, Pb, copper, Cu, silver, Ag and gold, Au, do not react with water at all. Very important. Clear? What happens when metal react with acids? Okay, what happens when metal react with acids? When metal reacts with acid, you get salt plus hydrogen. What you will get? You will get salt plus hydrogen. This is also very important. Note it down. Clear? Now, this is very, very important that how do metals and non-metals react? How do metals and non-metals react? So, whenever metals and non-metals reacts, na, they always form ionic compound like sodium chloride. Sodium chloride, this is what? This is a salt. This is a common salt. This is common salt, and it is in the form of ions Na plus plus Cl minus. Okay, chlorine minus, it is an anion, and sodium plus, this is a cation. Okay, so NaCl, the bond present is ionic bond. The bond present is NaCl is ionic bond, not covalent bond. Okay, so whenever metal and non-metal reacts, ionic compound is formed. Ionic compound is formed means the atoms, when you dissolve those ionic compounds in water, you will get ions of the elements of metals and non-metals. Okay, and the bond which is present between them will be what? It will be ionic bond. Clear? It will be ionic bond. Clear? Now we will discuss the properties of ionic compounds. So here is the first property is what? Physical properties. Okay, physical properties of ionic compounds like NaCl, MgCl2, calcium oxide. These are what? These are ionic compounds. If you break them, you will get Mg 2 plus plus 2 Cl minus. So these are ions. Similarly, Ca2 plus and O2 minus ions. Clear? So these are what? Ions. Now, what is their physical nature? Ionic compounds are solids and are somewhat hard because of the strong force of attraction between them. The positive and negative ions, you know na, that opposite poles attracts each other. So one is a cation, and that is positively charged, and another one is what? Another one is anion, that is negatively charged. So they attract each other very strongly. That's why the force of attraction between the positive and negative ions is somewhere very, very strong. These compounds are generally brittle and break into pieces when pressure is applied. Okay, so these ionic compounds are brittle. Brittle means you can change them into crystals. If you apply the pressure na, if you apply the pressure, these ionic compounds will break into pieces like in the form of crystals. Okay, like salt crystals. Have you seen NaCl in the form of solid? Okay, like the raw salt, like whatever the shape can be. Okay, and whenever you apply the pressure, this will break into what? Pieces. Okay, small pieces or granules. Okay, and these granules are shows the property of brittleness. Clear? And another property is melting and boiling point. So melting and boiling point of ionic compounds are very, very high. Ionic compounds have high melting point and boiling point, and this is because a considerable amount of energy is required to break the strong interionic attraction. What I'm saying, that ionic compound have high melting and boiling point. This is because a considerable amount of energy is required to break the strong interionic attraction. Interionic attraction means the bond between sodium and chlorine, the bond between magnesium and two chloride atoms. Basically, you need a large amount of energy, or you need a tremendous amount of energy to break this bond, break this ionic bond. Clear? That's why to break this bond you need a high amount of energy, and that's why their melting and boiling point is very, very much higher in comparison to the covalent compound. Now, solubility. Electrovalent compounds are generally soluble in water and insoluble in solvent such as kerosene and petrol. Okay, so ionic compounds are soluble in water and they form ions. Like you can easily dissolve sodium chloride, that is a common salt, or table salt which we use in our home. Table salt, this table salt is easily dissolved in water. Okay, easily soluble in water. So electrovalent or ionic compounds, electrovalent is another name of ionic compounds, are generally soluble in water and insoluble in what? Kerosene or petrol. Now, fourth point is conduction of electricity. Conduction of electricity. So in solid state, they are poor conductor of electricity. Okay, the conduction of electricity through a solution involves the movement of charged particles. Ionic compounds in the solid state do not conduct electricity because movement of ion in solid is not possible. Okay, to conduct electricity, basically what is the main condition? What is the main condition? That there should be the movement of ions. there should be the movement of ions. Okay, so if movement of ions is not present in solid state, then how the electricity will conduct? Okay, so that's why in solid state ionic compounds do not conduct electricity. Clear? Now, but in the aqueous solution, yes, they conduct electricity, because in aqueous solution the ionic compound will break into ions, and now ions can move freely in that aqueous solution. That's why they will conduct the electricity. Clear? Ionic compounds in solid state do not conduct electricity because movement of ion in solid is not possible due to their rigid structure, but ionic compounds conduct electricity in molten state, in molten or in aqueous state, or when you dissolve this in water. Clear? So these are the four properties of ionic compound: their physical properties, their metal and boiling points, solubility and conduction of electricity of ionic compounds. Clear? So I hope this is clear for everybody now. And now in the last part of the video we will discuss about reactivity series, and then we will discuss about water metalloids, because metalloids are also very very important and you should know about metalloids. Clear? Now, so this is a reactivity series. Okay, here are some metals are written like potassium, sodium, calcium, magnesium, aluminium, zinc, iron, lead, hydrogen, copper, mercury, and silver and gold. These are the some metals is written over here, and from top to bottom, their reactivity is decreasing. Their reactivity is decreasing. So here you can see potassium is the most reactive metal. Potassium is the most reactive metal. This metal can react even in the presence of oxygen only. Okay, that's why we keep the potassium always in kerosene oil. Okay, we don't expose potassium in air. Clear? Because it is the most reactive metal. Then after potassium, sodium is the second most reactive, calcium is the third most, magnesium is the fourth most reactive, then aluminium, and in the last, gold is the least reactive metal. Gold is the least reactive metal. So from top to bottom, reactivity of the metal is decreasing. Clear? So you should remember this reactivity series, because one question you will get like that also, or probably you will get also like which one of the following is most reactive. Let's say examiner is asking like this. Now he has given four options to you, like aluminum, zinc, mercury, and fourth option is sodium. Which one of the following is the most reactive metal among the following? So sodium is the most reactive metal among the following. Which one of the following metal is least reactive? So mercury is the least reactive. Mercury is the least reactive. Sodium is the most reactive. So this kind of questions you can get in your upcoming examination. That's why this reactive series of metals is also very very important, and you should remember these metals, because these are only very important metals. These are the reactivity series from NCRT. So NCRT is more than enough for your examination. Okay, very very important it is. Now we will talk about metalloids. What are metalloids? So metalloid is nothing but the substance which possess the qualities of both metals and non-metals. Okay, so the elements basically which are present in our p block elements of the periodic table. Okay, where are metalloids located? It is in p block elements. Okay, and these elements possess the quality of both metals and non-metals. That's why we call them metalloids. That's why we call them metalloids, and also we call them semiconductors. Also we call them what? Semiconductors. Clear? Metalloids or semiconductors. Now here you can see this is a your p block element. Okay, this is a boron family, carbon family, nitrogen family, oxygen and fluorine. These are families. Now here you can see this dark yellow part. Okay, yellowish something. I'm going to mark here: boron, silicon, germanium, arsenic, antimony, tellurium, and polonium. These are what? These are metalloids. Okay, the white portion is what? These are metalloids. These are the elements which possess both the properties of metals and non-metals. Now germanium. These are some uses of these metalloids. Germanium, it is used in optical fibers as its oxide. Arsenic, it is alloyed with lead in car batteries. Okay, in car batteries it is alloyed with lead. Now antimony is as it's oxidized as flame retardant. Okay, and tellurium, it is used in some type of solar panels. Tellurium, it is used in solar panels, basically solar panels. That's why it is very important. and germanium, optical fiber, that's why it is also very important. Arsenic, car batteries, just remember arsenic, car batteries, germanium, optical fiber, tellurium, solar panels, antimony, flame retardant, antimony, flame retardant or fire extinguisher, फायर extinguishers में. ठीक है, is it understood, clear? So these are metalloids, just remember them. Okay, I'm writing here the name also: boron, silicon. Si is for silicon. Okay, G is for what? Germanium. G is for what? Germanium. G is for germanium here. And As is for arsenic. A is for arsenic. And Sb is for antimony. Sb is for antimony. You should remember their symbols also. Symbols are very very important. T is for tellurium. टेलीरियम, ठीक है, स्पेलिंग देख लेंगे, टेल्यूरियम. एंड पीओ इज फॉर पोलोनियम. पीओ इज फॉर पोलोनियम. एंड यस, हो गया, सारे हो गए ना, ठीक है. तो बोरॉन, सिलिकॉन, जर्मेनियम, आर्सेनिक, एंटीमनी, टेल्यूरियम एंड पोलोनियम, दीज आर मेटालॉइड्स. नाउ हियर इज सम मोस्ट important thing, very important note points, you can see very important note points. Osmium is the heaviest metal naturally, very very important. Osmium is the heaviest metal naturally. The strongest natural metal is tungsten, and the strongest alloy is steel. The hardest metal is chromium, and the most useful strong metal is titanium. Very very important. All 5 points are so much important. You will get question directly. The heaviest metal on the earth's surface, it is osmium. Osmium. The strongest natural metal, it is tungsten. Which one of the following is the strongest alloy? Steel. The hardest metal on the surface, chromium. The most useful strong metal, it is titanium. Okay, so all this information is very very important. And from here your chapter ends today. And